Seems a week doesn't go by when we don't hear about a celebrity suicide. And whenever we hear about one of these tragedies, we predictably react with a series of contradictory emotions. On the one hand, these folks embody the great life. I mean, they're rich, they're famous, they're ostensibly self actualized. But on the other, they have committed suicide. The depth of despair must have overtaken them. And that, in conjunction with what we perceive as the good life, is very, very confusing. So I'd like to talk about this dissonance and see how it relates to our feelings, not only about celebrity, but about ourselves and society and our expectations of each other and that elusive goal, the good life. Hello and welcome to the No Hair All Heart podcast. I'm your No Hair host, Mookie Spitz, and the affair of the heart that we're going to talk about is exactly that. Celebrity suicides. And I think a great place to start is this hysterical skit where Dave Chappelle's Footlocker friend is pitted against Anthony Bourdain. Chappelle's genius takes off where Richard Pryor left off when comparing American cultural norms through the lens of race. Classics include the Pryor skit where he insisted The Exorcist would have lasted 5 minutes had black people starred in it. Their tolerance for ridiculous nonsense far lower than their bougie white neighbors. Bitch, get that cross out your pussy. We got company. I remember hearing that on an LP vinyl record in middle school. An African American friend of mine gave me a listen, and it was one of the funniest skits I had ever heard and remains a classic. And fast forward a generation or two, and Chappelle has since amplified and expanded these hysterical comparisons between races, such as when he invited John Mayer to play his blues guitar in New York City to diverse audiences. Hilarity ensued between a corporate boardroom in Midtown where the white people stop what they're doing in their meeting, jump up on the tabletop and start dancing to his blues licks, completely immersed, loving it. In a black and Latino barber shop in the Bronx, where everyone stops what they're doing, winces for a few seconds until telling John to just shut the fuck up already, hating every second of the exact same style of music that the white people in Midtown were going nuts to. Love that one as well. Old wine in a new bottle. This shit forever funny, highlighting some of these, albeit stereotypical differences between ethnicities, between races, but also cultural mores, suggesting how subjective we hold music, entertainment, and just so much of our lives. And a similar kind of magic works in a Netflix show that Dave gave a few years ago. Dave was describing the difference between how very different people, white and black people in this case, handle stress, uncertainty, depression, disappointment. Scenario one, world famous Anthony Bourdain hangs himself in a luxury suite in France. Scenario two, Chappelle describes the life of a friend of his from back in the hood. And now this friend showed incredible promise in school, excellent student, whip smart, debate team. He ended up going to not only college, but law school, one of the few in the hood who was able to get into and thrive in higher education. Now, the way Dave tells it, this guy got into a bad romance, wound up getting married, then divorced, romantically devastated, falling into a depression, and then dropping out of school, being unable to finish, and then finding himself years and years later when Dave strolled into a Foot Locker store with his kids to buy some tennis shoes. The guy was working there as the manager of the store in his referee outfit, ostensibly just doing his job, and the two of them running into each other for the first time after years. And then Dave and this guy get together for a drink after his shift is over, catching up after all these years, and it turns out everything went downhill for this guy. Such incredible promise after high school, flourishing in law school, then losing it all as the consequence of this bad romance, finding himself in a Foot Locker store, and worse than that, living with his mom, unmarried, no girlfriend, just getting by day in, day out. And then Dave remarks, within the context of a guy like Anthony Bourdain ending his own life, that as far as his friend was concerned, quote, never occurred to this nigger to kill himself, unquote. And that, when I heard it, had me rolling again in Chappelle's very characteristic, cynical, biting, socially observant kind of way, where, again, you've got a white guy on top of the world. Anthony Bourdain, I mean, seriously, the ultimate winner. In contrast to Dave's high school friend from the hood, who crashed and burned. And to cite Dave, it never even occurred to this guy to kill himself. And the contrast is striking. Despite Dave's apropos enough use of the N-word and arguably my inappropriateness quoting him as a bald, middle-aged white guy, the stereotyping is hysterical and used as a bridge to a classic truth. Happiness has nothing to do with fame and fortune, or a lack of it. If nothing else, success, money, and power often lead to far more trouble than they're worth. How many families are destroyed by inheritance money handed down unequally, or for that matter, equally, to the point where the siblings, in retrospect, probably would agree that having no money would probably have served them all better in terms of their interpersonal relationships, quality of life. How many times do we hear of the hedge fund manager taking a flying leap from his penthouse apartment, and meanwhile the dock worker sitting on the stoop drinking his malt liquors, having an okay time of things? Far as the Chappelle story goes, the biographical context is relevant too, and reveals Chappelle's genius for sheer storytelling. Bourdain's malaise was allegedly fueled by a problematic romantic relationship, as was Dave's pal, who endured that divorce during law school and never recovering. So, going back as we began, scenario one, heartbreak led to suicide. Scenario two, heartbreak led to not committing suicide. Jordan Peele's horror thriller Get Out plays off the paradox of racism being motivated by envy. Black people are cooler than white people, so white people steal their bodies to become more youthful, virile, and attractive. Chappelle similarly flips racism on its head and does so with hysterical irony. Never occurred to the rich, white, famous guy to appreciate his privilege. That's what it's about. So interesting to implicitly infer that's what's really going on here isn't so much Anthony Bourdain being on the top of the world only to jump off of it, and conversely, this disenfranchised inner city black guy being at the bottom and staying there. But it's all really a matter of perspective, isn't it? Get a job, get married, get rich is the shitty triptych of American society, regardless who you are, where you come from, or what you choose or wind up doing with your life. Yet we're reminded over and over again of the simple underlying reality that happiness can't be found in employment, matrimony, or wealth. We are not our careers, families, or portfolios. Stripping those away, most wonder what's left. And the answer could very well be, maybe should be, stuff that truly counts. Bourdain killed himself and Chappelle's Footlocker friend didn't, because the former's fame and fortune didn't help him, and the latter's anonymity and poverty didn't hurt him. Behind their lives and our own is an advanced, civilized primate with primal needs that can't ever be ignored. Great comics make us laugh by exposing the truth in a blisteringly direct, honest, and dramatic way. They are terrific storytellers who, like all of us, got punched in the face by life, but then show off their bruises to expose our own vulnerabilities, giving everyone catharsis. Anthony Bourdain's death and Footlocker friend's life free us from unrealistic expectations. So then I think it's fair, if it's all about expectations, to dive into a use case, if you will. Let's look deeper at a particular celebrity, their premature, voluntary, and tragic self-induced death, their suicide, and see what else we can learn from this phenomenon. See how expectations matter, but peel away some additional layers to see what else we might learn to hopefully help us better understand and appreciate the things that we have, and also appreciate the traumas that success and fame can really impose upon a person, to, in all fairness, give Anthony Bourdain at least a few more benefits of a doubt. And here I'm going to focus on Taylor Hawkins, the drummer for the huge, globally acclaimed rock band, alternative rock band, the Foo Fighters, and the burden that his fame placed on his shoulders. And take a look at what I consider the top 5 reasons celebrities have more trouble than you or I imagine. Dying young at the height of his career, Taylor Hawkins was only 50, and the world was, by any stretch of the imagination, his oyster. Millions mourn him now, and they wonder, like Anthony Bourdain, why? And of course, the easy explanation is too much sex and drugs and rock and roll. And maybe it is better to burn out than fade away. I mean, Ziggy Stardust felt, as most of us do, that it'll all work out if we become a rock star. Fame, money, power, these trappings get us off the hook for all our prior failings, right? Shield us from our vulnerabilities with a veneer of total success. So we're particularly intrigued when calamity befalls those actually chosen, and utterly shocked when suicide, overdose, or premature death kills these celebrity immortals right before our eyes. Living the good life, how could anything ever be bad for them? My 15-year-old was wondering why. And as we were talking, these 5 reasons of how the most charmed existence that he or I could imagine could actually be fraught with deep, horrific suffering. He continues to grapple with the contradictions and irony after that conversation, and so do I. And that's another reason that I want to share them now, see what you think, see how we can all relate, and just shake our heads as to really some of the ironies and paradoxes built right into our existence. So, for starters, reason number 1 that celebrities have such a hard time is the more I hate myself, the more I need to prove myself. Surviving, flourishing, and ultimately winning within a highly competitive, often cutthroat market takes relentless determination and true grit. Everyone has a plan, Mike Tyson famously once said, until they're punched in the face. Incessantly smacked down by failure, only the boldest and hardest working can make it. True grit. That drive is frequently powered by a compensatory need to prove self-worth, which in turn originates from very low esteem, not high. So in other words, if you're confident and you're more or less comfortable, life could always be better, but I'm living okay. Then where's the motivation to change it, especially when it's such an uphill battle to gain attention, to sustain attention, and to even grow it to the point of this kind of celebrity? Now, problems ironically develop not in the early phases of that career, that struggle itself that I just described, but after the initial hurdles have been conquered. That same compulsive need for validation flips from fighting the competition to battling one's own demons. The jarring disconnect between a celebrity's frail ego and their fans' adoration creates the schizophrenic backdrop for the rest of the challenges outlined here. Why does everyone love me when I consider myself just another piece of shit? Number 2, the second reason why celebrities feel so bad about themselves. Too much is never enough for me. Success, like money, power, sex, any and all metrics of accomplishment, is relative. We humans are instinctively programmed to dynamically engage with our immediate surroundings. Tiger, run, food, eat, mate, breed. Starting out, the celebrity to be is unknown and struggling for the bare minimum. A big win might be as humble as landing a spot in a TV commercial, playing in front of 100 people, or getting 1,000 Spotify followers. As each goal is met and the levels of accomplishment progressively rise, so does their hunger for more. Looking above and not below, someone is always more popular, more wealthy, more adored. The gap becomes unbearable. Remember what we said about expectation. With expectation, there's also perspective. You look from the bottom up, you look from the top down, there's always someone above you. There is never a ceiling. You could always be doing better than someone else. The real problem is that that ceiling doesn't exist. David Blaine, for example, has nobody left to compete with. So he's now competing with his own prior accomplishments, leading to the inexorable grind I never feel fully satisfied or completely at ease. That leads to the third reason celebrities have such a hard time. The more I love life, the more terrified I am of losing it all. Celebrities from Janis Joplin to Robin Williams have described waking up in a cold sweat, freaked out that their charmed life has all been a dream, or worse still, that they have suddenly lost their talent or everyone forgot about them. Low self esteem heightens feelings of vulnerability. Dismissing themselves as unworthy of success or being loved, the wounded and traumatized often expect things that are too good to be true to be exactly that, a house of cards. Such fear of loss, like low self esteem, is a motivator to continuously hone one's craft, work even harder than ever before, and continue to fight for what's been claimed by maniacally shooting for the stars with gusto. That's the good part of this. Yet the gripping tension could lead to asphyxiating paralysis, shifting to raging paranoia. The contradictions mount in direct proportion to the level of success. Here's where the celebrity eventually lands in this case. The more I have, the more frightened I am of it all being taken away. Fourth reason, celebrities can surprisingly have a hard time indeed. The more popular I become, the less people know who I actually am. Madonna tells this sad but revealing story that perfectly captures the dissonance between celebrities as living, breathing, feeling beings and famous people as mere avatars devoid of emotions and any real humanity. In her incognito mode of baseball cap, t shirt, and jeans, the material girl was riding in an elevator in Vegas when several people got in and nonetheless recognized her. It's Madonna, they shouted. Look, she doesn't appear that pretty in person. One gawking fan literally lifted up her cap and poked at her face as if she were in Madame Tussauds wax museum. Who was the real Madonna? Multiplied and magnified billions of times, the meat and bones no longer existed. Extrapolate that unnerving feeling 1,000-fold, and you might begin to appreciate the angst felt by celebrities. In this case, boiling down to the feeling already plagued by low self esteem and confused by endless adoration, I'm losing my grip on my own sense of self. Think about that existential disconnect between their lives as a person, just some guy or gal, and those millions, billions of images, clones, if you will, digital avatars on screens in all these people's minds. Who is the real Madonna? Who is the real Taylor Hawkins? Who is the real Anthony Bourdain? Imagine being in that position where, again, expectation is now exponentially accelerated and removed from who you actually are. Fifth reason celebrities have a tougher time than you would ever think. The more powerful I become, the less I feel in control. Yet another and central paradox. Another illustrative celebrity freakout story is from Elton John, who, raging on the balcony of his penthouse suite, standing out in the rain, summoned room service and demanded that the horrible London weather be changed to bright and sunny. Rocket Man thankfully recognized, at least at that point, that he needed some serious therapy and detox. But his ridiculous fit demonstrates the arduous and often dangerous psychological state that many celebrities endure. I am God, hear me whine. Such a manic depressive mindset is a composite of all their other challenges and is the catalyst for potentially pushing them over the edge. Raw egos compensate for tiny self-worth to exceed their wildest dreams. But here's the thing, they stay raw. The celebrity nightmare is the realization that no matter how rich and powerful and famous they become, they remain human, all too human. And here's the rub. I'm essentially the same as everyone else, only I seem to have even more problems, not less. Then the question becomes, are happy rock stars, are happy celebrities even possible? And the answer is an unequivocal yes. Consider Taylor's best friend, Dave Grohl. As one of my friends observed, imagine how he feels after being the drummer in a band that lost its lead singer, only to now be the lead singer in a band that lost its drummer. Despite his recent loss, Grohl exemplifies the consummate winner. He's played with everyone, toured the world, and has avoided the many landmines and pitfalls created by the 5 built-in challenges outlined above. No, he hasn't. While he is touring the world, living the life, playing with everyone, I think his net worth is something like $250 million, if not higher. Anyway, while he is apparently exemplifying the road less traveled and lived to its fullest, he had at least one second family going. So he not only had an affair, let alone many affairs, but they had a kid, and he was leading that stereotypical, all too common double life. And why did he do that? Well, consider the last 5 points. He's no different. Appearance and reality, expectations and perspective. Well, how about Paul McCartney then? Still performing for 3-hour-long shows in front of hundreds of thousands of people. Or on the other end of the musical spectrum, how about Sammy Hagar? Or in other areas, such as acting, Paul Newman, Arnold Schwartz. No, not Arnold. Oopsie with the maid. Truth is, happiness is at each of our fingertips. And Ziggy Stardust was wrong. You don't need to become a star to prove yourself, and success might hurt more than it helps. Whether or not we can actually find a happy celebrity, and whether or not being a celebrity necessarily leads you into all of these problems that result in a miserable life, sometimes culminating in taking one's own life, the cautionary tale here, perhaps, is just be careful what you ask for, because you actually might get it. And to end with a quote from W.P. Kinsella, success is getting what you want. Happiness is wanting what you get. And if nothing else, I have come to appreciate in my gray-haired years at least a few that pop up, spring up on my bald head. That's to appreciate what I have, to manage my expectations, and to maintain a healthy sense of perspective. And central to that is to care a lot less about what other people think of my emotional, physical, and financial state, and revel whenever I can in what I love to do most, of which a part is ranting on podcasts and sharing some of my feelings on the No Hair, All Heart podcast. So I hope this was illuminating. Maybe it triggered some thinking and some dimensionality too. Not only this phenomena of celebrity suicide and all of its tragedy and complexity and confusion and paradox, but hint to all of us what really constitutes a good and happy life. Thanks for listening, and more to come.